The following is a production of Sharkflight Media. Sharkflight Media. Sharkflight Media. Sharkflight Media.
From mechs to mages or agents to Argonauts, this is the world of Chris Kennedy Publishing. This is the CKP Future Books Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the June edition of Future Books. And this month, as every month, we have our great editor and publisher, Chris Kennedy. And we're going to talk a little bit about the books that are coming out in the month of June. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Randy. Great to be here. Like always, love talking with you.
Love talking to you, too. Looking over the itinerary for the month of June, I'm afraid I'm going to have to call you a slacker. I don't see 37 books coming out this month. We only have 3. What's wrong, man?
Well, it's a little bit smaller than some months, certainly. But it's a short month, and just the way the dates line up. It's also the one time a quarter where we have a week off for, so people can catch up. And maybe I may be one of those people this month where I'm catching up with some things. So it all works out well.
I tell you, we may not be having as many books released this month, but if you're going to have a 3-book month, this is a great month for it. We have 3 books, one that's highly anticipated, we've been waiting on for several years, one in a completely new world and series, and one that is the 3rd book in what I consider the best new series of CKP of 2024.
Outstanding. I agree with you all the way through that. They are some great books. The art, for this month is as good as I think you can get. The last 4 weeks, it's been 2 from Jake and 2 from Sam Kennedy, who is no relation to me. So it's not like I'm giving my brother some props. It's the art's just been incredible here for this run.
One of these days, we're going to have to put out a PDF that people can print out themselves of all the covers, because if you look at the history of the CKP cover art, it has gone from okay, not terrible, to probably the leader in the electronic publishing world in covers consistently. I would put our covers against the covers from the 90s from Del Rey and from all the covers of Bane now. They're beautiful, and they tell a story in and of themselves. If you look at the covers from CKP, those covers invite you to buy the books.
Well, and obviously that's the plan, so I'm glad it's working.
So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what's coming out in the month of June. So for those of you who have been waiting, one of CKP's longtime authors has come out with the 2nd book in a series they started several years ago. We've got Devil's Outpost, which, if anybody remembers, we had a series that started called the Devil's Choir Book 1, about the Choir Boys, a mercenary group, and Book 2, Devil's Outpost by Chris Maddox, will be out on June 7th. Tell us a little bit about it, Chris.
Okay, sure. This is actually, Chris was one of the earliest authors that really I think came to success. Looking with CKP, his book did great. It was the title of it was Devil Calls the Tune. It had kind of a mecha looking thing standing in front of a church window with the glass and everything, and it was really cool, and it did really well, and I was like, okay, Chris, when am I going to get the next one? And he said something like I'll have it for you here in 3 or 4 months. And I asked him again in 3 or 4 months, hey, when are you going to have it? And he's like, well, maybe by Christmas. And it was now June, and I'm like, uh-oh. Life sometimes gets in the way, and life got in the way, and he kept returning to it, and something else would happen, and it took a long time. 4 years long, as a matter of fact. But the book's in now, and it's a really good book. Continues the series of Nico Devlin. I think that hopefully we can get him to bring out the 3rd one a little bit faster. He is beating George R.R. Martin, but we need to do a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly happy to see him back, and like you said, his first book, the cover was great, the story was great, and left me wanting more. So this would be a great book for people to buy because you have just enough time to purchase the first book and get through it in time for June 7th, then purchasing the second novel, and you'll be all caught up. It's not like you have to read 90 books to get caught up with the series.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great, and the second one's even better. I think that the readers will have a great time with it. I know I have.
And then we're going to take a break. We're going to give you a week without anything to read. And then on June 21st...
well, there's still plenty of things to read.
Well, that's true. We got a great backlist.
Right. Find one of the things that you haven't, that you've been meaning to get to, and jump right in.
That's exactly what I should have said. Thank you for correcting me. So the second week of June, there will be no new releases from CKP, but I am sure with the hundreds of books that we have on the website now, there is something there that you missed that now is the perfect time to catch up on it.
Absolutely.
And then we come to June 21st, and we have a brand new series, and this book here is a book that I am going to recommend. This is going to be our featured book this month, and we'll be talking to the authors later in the podcast. But this book does not end the way you will expect. This is a very interesting, very well-written, but very unexpected book. It's called Iconic, and the series is going to be called The Outer Reaches, and this book does not go where you think it's going. Tell us a little bit about it, Chris.
So I should tell them where the readers think it's going to go, and then give away the secret. No,
I don't think so.
I'm gonna say that it is far future. It is sci-fi. I will say that I loved it. I did not see where it was going either. It starts almost tropey. You've got a ship where there's a long forgotten ruler in stasis, and a great cast of people that I really found interesting. The main characters that you follow along, I think are neat people. It's a neat group with a variety of different talents. It's something you almost want to know more about everybody. Just because they're coming from a very different group. You don't see a lot of the things coming that are going to happen, and the things that you do see coming, you're wrong.
Yeah, these two authors working together, they are inventive and they are twisted, and they write a really good book. This is a strongly recommend. This is the first book in the series, and I can't wait till they write the sequel and we get it published, because I want to see what twisty paths these authors take down next.
I'm happy to tell you that I already have the second and third books in hand, and they're already on the schedule. They'll be coming out every 5 or 6 weeks from now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So they're right there. You'll get the second book, which is Quaestor, on the 9th of August. So about a month and a half after that, and then about a month and a half after that, you'll get Far Horizons on September 20th.
Yeah. So these authors will lead you down a primrose path. You'll think you know exactly where you're going, and just keep reading.
Absolutely.
June 28th. As I said in the beginning, this series is my favorite new series that CKP is producing. It is, this will be book 3. It is a series that is being co-written by Bill Fawcet and Casey Morse. With Bill, you have a gentleman who was around at the end of the golden age of science fiction, has been involved in science fiction and gaming his entire life for over 40 years. And with Casey Morse, you have got one of the best, most talented authors that CKP has ever worked with. part of the famous Casey's. And these two authors are more than the sum of their parts. This series is fantastic. The first two books, the second book was better than the first, so I can't imagine how this book is going to be even better. Tell us a little bit about No Further.
Sure. The Blood and Armor series follows the Peshmerga in their newly created state, something that happens, in the near future. So you're dealing with tech that is, near term. You've got some rail guns, which the only thing that's ever stopped them from working for us is a battery. Just they draw a lot of power.
Yeah, they're not very portable right now.
Right. You can put them on a battleship and that's about it. But now here, they've got the power licked so they can make it work. So you've got all these suits with railguns, and they've been given to the one country that's surrounded by enemies that isn't Israel. Although it's surrounded by a lot of the same enemies. And Iran would like nothing better than to get rid of it. Syria would like nothing more. Iraq would like nothing more. So they're surrounded by people that hate them, that are trying to make the country disappear. They've already fought off the Iranians twice. And it's time for yet another attack on their young statehood, that they'll have to come together and the series titles are Never Again, No Fail, No Further. And then I can tell you that, the fourth one is Forlorn Hope. So, it's not going to get any easier as they go along. I don't know if you're aware or not, Randy, but the fourth book is going to be by Casey Moores and Melissa Olthoff. Bill is going to step back for that one, and Melissa's going to jump in to co-write. So I'm expecting great things out of that one, too.
It sounds like it's going to get better and better. For fans who like to read cyber thrillers, if you like Tom Clancy with a touch of science fiction, the technology that is used in this particular series, if it doesn't exist, it's certainly within our grasp. The science fiction is probably the least part of this. The military end of it, the interaction between the characters, and some of the best battle scenes that I've read in a long time. There is no downside to reading this series.
And it is action from the time you open it. Just to tag on to what you said, Mercedes Lackey, who sci-fi fantasy readers will know, Mercedes Lackey read the series, and she said that it's as engaging as Tom Clancy without the sense that the action is interrupted by intrusions of DoD parts catalogs.
That's pretty funny. That's a great quote.
Yeah. So you get all the action, with none of the distraction by, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that will wrap up June. This is going to be a great June. 3 books, and all of them, like Lake Wobegon Children, all above average. So I encourage everybody to go out and buy these and read them. Just before we close, you may not have this off the top of your head, but we're starting the summer beach season. People are going to be taking vacations. What does the summer look like for CKP? What should people be looking out for?
Certainly the rest of the Iconic series, the rest of the Blood and Armor. We've got 4 Horsemen coming. We've got an Ashes of Ventiscia anthology coming. That was Casey Zell's and mine.
We got a Prince Hazard book coming.
Yeah, absolutely. You got Lunar Free State. You've got Abner Fortis. You've got all of the likely suspects. There's even a salvage title book coming.
So it sounds like the summer's full. People are going to have plenty of stuff to read on vacation. Everybody needs to make note. We'll be talking about them in detail as they're coming up in July and August. I encourage everybody to get them, and also don't forget on your travels while you go on vacation. CKP has a large selection of audiobooks. So on these trips where you're driving 3 or 4 hours, buy one of our audiobooks, download it, and listen to it on your trip. You may find that they become addictive.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're definitely trying to do, is get more and more out there. I just approved Apprentice to the Gods, which was one of the 7 Shaman books today. We had one book go live. Actually, we had 2 books go live. One was a German book. The other is Brass Ink in the Four Horsemen universe by Daniel Wisniewski. So lots of books coming out in audio. Ought to be able to satisfy your need there.
Chris, I think that's going to wrap up the month of June. Thank you so much for coming to us and spending time with us, talking about what's coming out. And we look forward to talking to you again in the month of July.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great as always.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the first half of the podcast. And now we come to the part of the podcast where we talk to the featured author for this month. And we have a treat this month. We don't have one featured author. We have 2 featured authors, and they're both new to the CKP universe. And their first book for CKP is called Iconic, and it's out this month. It's a great read. It surprised me at every turn. I want to welcome Pete Aldin and Andre Jones. Welcome, guys.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Also, this is an international interview. We have Pete in Australia, and we have Andre in France, and they've taken time out. We found a little narrow 1-hour period where everybody's going to be awake at the same time.
It's 6 a.m. here. So, yeah.
So I guess the first question is, either one of you can take this. One of you give us a little synopsis without giving us any spoilers of your book.
I'll leave
it to take that. Oh, okay. I was going to leave it to you. So we're set in a very far future universe, at least 5,000 years in the future. Where humanity has spread through the galaxy under one empire. There's no aliens. There's no alien life. We've terraformed planets, or we've found Goldilocks planets, and we've seeded them with our own, Earth species, or sometimes with genetically modified humans. And everything was fairly stable for a while until a civil war came along. And we're now in the aftermath of that war. So we're 1,700 years further on. The war left damage to the empire. There's now pockets of factions and civilizations and peoples who are kind of on the outer reaches. So we're calling this series the Outer Reaches, and we have 2 sets of characters on a collision course on a ship that shouldn't exist, which they both discover independently of each other.
And I understand from talking to you guys off camera that each of you wrote one of the 2 groups, primarily of the 2 groups that end up working together. Which group did you work with, Andre?
Well, that's giving it away, isn't it?
Well,
Okay.
only thing we're giving away is there's 2 groups. I just wonder which of the 2 groups you took, either the Empire or the Terrans.
Well, I had the misfit rebels, basically.
Okay. And so that left you with the original Empire group, correct?
But yeah, so I had the Imperial soldiers, and this isn't giving anything away. The thing that I found interesting about these soldiers to write was that they had fought on the other side of the Civil War, so against the Empire, been captured, had decided to then serve the Empire to make up for their sins, I guess, and have been put in and out of stasis, in and out of cryo sleep for 1,700 years. So the Empire plucks a few of them out when they need a mission done that requires, a little bit of PR or that sort of thing. Whereas Andre's characters are, and tell me if I should reshape this, Andre, but they are from a very diverse, array of backgrounds who've been captured as slaves, and they're escaped slaves.
Yeah.
2 very different groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that interesting what you just said, because I took the group that you wrote completely different. Instead of trying to get forgiveness for their sins, I took it to be that they saw that at the time that they switched their allegiance, that there was absolutely no way under that set of circumstances that they could win this war that they were in before they joined. And they joined to bring an end to the conflict rather than fighting to the bitter end.
Correct. And I think that was a big part of it back then. One of the things, Andre said that we were just in our preamble before we started recording that Chris of Chris Kennedy Publishing invited us to write 2 more books in the series, and we hadn't planned on that. So we wrote 1 book each with different sets of characters. In that book, I was able to think through and explore that background of these soldiers who are called proselytes or proselytes, converts, and thought through the thing that there's a lot of different, personal rationales for why those people, gave in and surrendered and joined the other side. And, some of it was about making amends and fixing the damage. And like you said, for others, it was just a practicality of, if I want to survive, or if I want to put an end to this and stop the slaughter, I have to do this. There was quite a range of it. But the official reason was, yes, to stop the slaughter and to bow down to the emperor's will, etc., etc.
Yeah. And Andre, your group of characters were fantastic. And I thought that you wrote your characters with a really good, they had camaraderie, but there was a great sense of humor in the writing of your characters. Did you do that intentionally?
Well, yes, I suppose part of it's being a bit of a novice. This is my first military sci-fi type scenario, but I've written that fantasy and urban fantasy. I just felt that too many times characters seem to be just molded from each other, whereas if they're coming from diverse backgrounds, then why would they be the same? So Alexis is, well, as you've read it, she's thrown in the deep end. She wasn't expecting to be a starship captain at any stage. None of them were expecting to be slaves, and but to make it work on a spaceship, they needed to have certain qualifications, and obviously they were just fortunate to be in the same situation at the same time. And then they met up with Sabria, who's basically the warrior type, and she needed guidance.
She was my favorite character.
Mine too. Oh, they're all my favorite. They're all mine. But look, it's just simply that I tried to make them as diverse as possible, but with similar goals, I suppose, towards the end.
Yeah, and I love the back and forth between Sabria and the engineer. That was hilarious. There were times that it just cracked me up. It was great writing.
Good. Thank you.
So
can I jump in there, Randy,
sure.
and just compliment Andre, because one of the things that I really loved about his writing from the first draft onwards, it was exactly what you've said. I knew who was speaking in his group of characters without him putting dialogue tags. He didn't need to say Alexis said, Braden said.
Absolutely. You heard the voices in your head.
Incredible. Really good writing. Yeah.
And to complement your writing and your characters, what I loved about your characters was each one of them had a moral compass. They were different, but they stayed absolutely true to whatever was driving them from the beginning of the book to the end. Especially the leader of the group, he was always trying to search, it seemed like, for the right thing to do for his people.
I mean, that is the military side of things. I mean, I'm ex-Navy, and on a ship you've got people, and in any platoon, you've got people from various walks of life, different parts of the country, but they've all got a common goal, regardless of what their personal beliefs are. If the boss says or the captain says, we're going to do this, even if they don't want to do it or they think it's a bad idea, their training says, yep, let's go.
Yeah, I was a firefighter for 40 years, and that's the way it was in the fire service. There was a time to have a debate. There was a time to try to find a different way to do something. But once we were actively involved in a project, the time to discuss things was done with. Even if it was, we found out a lot. We found out through years of experience that doing the wrong thing right now is better than doing the right thing 30 minutes from now. So love that. I want to tell the listeners that this book will surprise you 3 times. This book, in my opinion, and you guys can disagree or comment, takes 3 completely different paths to get to the end. And unlike most books I read, this book absolutely surprised me about what the goal was. And it shouldn't have, but what the goal was. I did not see the end coming. Did you write this book or plot this book in such a way that you wanted to surprise everybody, or did it just end up that way?
That would mean having a plan. The other thing is, Pete's more of a plotter and I'm a pantser.
Okay.
So, I mean, I had an idea, these are the characters and this is what I want them to do, and this is sort of where I want it to end. And whereas Pete, I mean, he has been doing some pantsing, well done, Pete, but he does like... Well,
he likes to have a plan and a plot and an outline and all the accoutrements of writing.
I do. So I think what we did a lot of was we would pencil sketch a plan for the next few chapters or this part of the book, or maybe it'll end up this way. And then we would write some more and go, no, let's redo that plan. And I think Andre just ignored it anyway and let me plan a little bit to make myself feel better. But yeah, I think we discovered things as we wrote, which was part of the excitement in writing it. And I think maybe that's what's coming through for you too as a reader.
Andre mentioned that he had written urban fantasy and some fantasy. Had you written things prior to this, or is this your first book?
Me? No, this is probably book 13, 14.
Okay.
I've lost track. I'm just looking at my shelf over there. So I've actually written for Chris Kennedy Publishing a couple of times. I have a short story in one of the Four Horsemen anthologies, which was great fun.
Okay.
Co-wrote that with Kevin Eikenberry. And then with Kevin's help, I spun off that from that story and wrote one of the Peacemaker books, which was good fun. But yeah, I've got a range of sci-fi and mainly military sci-fi books under my own name.
Well, then
plus some zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, then that leads me to the question I wanted to ask. Do you two find writing as a team more fulfilling or easier than writing individually? And Andre, you go first this time.
Okay. Well, I mean, the benefit is we've got 3 books out in less than 18 months, less than 2 years. So I was actually chatting with another writer in the UK that he's a co-author, and he loves the way we did it. It was just circumstance because, as I was saying before, my characters come from a completely different place than Peter's, and they sort of. So I'd write a chapter, Pete would write a chapter, and we'd go backwards and forwards mostly until around about chapter 15, 16 when we actually first met, and then it was swapping scenes for each chapter, and then of course when they were all together, then we just sort of shared that. So we really theoretically only shared about 5 or 6 chapters.
Right.
Because we had alternate chapters before that. And then with books 2 and book 3, he wrote one book, I wrote another book.
Oh, okay.
It's as simple as that. Well, I mean, we conversed just so that we would be in the same universe and using similar, so the timelines didn't clash.
Right.
But other than that, my characters went their separate ways, and as did his.
Pete, anything you want to say about that?
I would just add that before we had put very little pen to paper, we had spent a lot of months brainstorming universe. And maybe I'm misremembering that, but it felt like a long time, and I'm really glad we did that. And we're continuing to do that. So we had a very fleshed out 3D universe with a history, with culture, with various cultures kind of colliding, language, depth of language around the place, because we thought there can't just be one language everywhere. There might be a couple of trade languages, but it's like Earth. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that universe building was the thing that helped us stay on track and helped us do this. And like Andre said, some of it's faster, some of it's slower. I think when you're writing with another person, I've only ever written short stories with other people. A novel's a completely different project, but the learning that came from that was fantastic. And I think we forged a great partnership in this. I hope it continues.
The book is one of the most fascinating books that I've read this year. And y'all hit a home run with, I know you didn't have I don't think, anything other than approval to do with it. But y'all hit a home run with your covers too. That's a cover that people want to buy the book.
It's beautiful.
A lot of these indie publishers, the covers are just basic, raw, almost clip art, and you have a cover that actually tells part of your story.
Yeah,
Sam Kennedy's done an amazing job.
So, what's the name of the second and third book? Have you named them yet?
So, second book's got my name on it. That'll be called Quaster. Some people might look at it and pronounce it Keister, and I don't want them to do that. So it's an old Roman word for like an enforcer or a detective enforcer. And Andre?
Book 3 is called Far Horizons. And like I said, it's just only because we're on the fringes of the known galaxy or the habited galaxy, and we keep away from the Empire area, so we're on the fringes. So in this particular, and there's a phrase in there later on which I won't discuss, but was one of the reasons why it's called Far Horizons.
Yeah. So are we going to see any of your original characters again, Andre?
Oh, they're all there.
They're all there. And Pete, in your book, is the same characters?
I don't want to give anything away, but potentially yes. Okay. So I'm still following those kind of proselyte soldiers. Yes.
Great. So I'm going to start with Pete this time. Go ahead and take an opportunity to tell the listeners some of the other books you've written and how you are associated on social media so that they can follow you and see what you write in the future.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the best place to go is simply petealdin.com, petealdin.com. The main series that I have is a sci-fi universe that I created, which has 2 periods of history, an early period where space is settled by corporations from Earth, and then we have a pandemic. Honestly, I wrote that before COVID, and it sends everyone back to the Dark Age. So you have all these scattered planets without any connection, and eventually you have a future period where we're trying to get all those planets to talk to each other again, and we finally meet aliens at that point too. And so you have some shenanigans in their part of the universe as well. I also have a zombie apocalypse series, which is set in Tasmania, because I thought if I'm going to be anywhere for the end of the world, it's the most beautiful place in the world to spend the end of the world. But it's also a place where there aren't many guns. Tasmania has a rich history of gun control for various reasons. So it was an interesting place to place characters for that.
And social media, you said petealdin.com?
Yeah, that'd be the best place. And then you'll see all my other socials, Instagram, Facebook, Goodreads. You can link from there.
Fabulous. And Andre, tell us a little bit about other stuff you've written and social media so people can follow you and see what's coming out as far as you're concerned.
Well, the new website out now called alienpress.org, because I started off as a self-published author. So I had a little imprint called Alien Press. So the first series was epic fantasy called the 7 Portal series. It was based on a role-playing game I designed way before I joined the Navy. And we got to the playtesting stage, but I couldn't play it once I joined the Navy, so I had to write about it. And at the time, not being an author, it just, usual thing, it just took too long, lack of confidence, and I kept on shelving it. COVID came along. I'd retired. We had money, nothing to do, so I wrote the first 3 books of the series. And then when I finished that, because of all the misinformation and conspiracy theories going on around the internet and sitting at home going down the rabbit hole on the internet, I found a whole bunch of interesting little tidbits of information that I put together as an urban fantasy, and that's called the Death Wave Chronicles.
Okay.
And so they're all out independently, but they're all on Amazon, and but alienpress.org is the website to find all the information.
That's great. That's great. And do either one of y'all have anything else other than the iconic series coming out on CKP this year? Anything, anthologies or novels?
Not for me.
And not for me, not yet.
All right. Then the last question I'm going to ask you is, I asked this of all the authors this year. Recommend a book that's not yours that you think people should read. It can be in any genre.
My favorite book of all time that I think has inspired me to write and inspired me to keep reading is called The Mote in God's Eye by Jerry Pournelle. Yep. I've read that book, 10 times maybe. I just love that book.
And on the gripping hand, I agree with you.
Yeah. Yes.
Andre?
I don't read as much as I should, but if I was going to recommend unfortunately, it's fantasy. It's the
There's nothing wrong with fantasy.
I know that. Guy Gavriel Kay has written a trilogy called the Fiona Tapestry. And I've read that several times, and halfway through book 2, I just can't help but cry. And don't read it on public transport. But it's not a tearjerker. I'm just emotional.
Yeah.
That it's a good series.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. You, Pete, getting up early to do this. I hope that we're able to do it again soon. Once again, one of my favorite books this year through CKP, really unusual book. I think everybody who reads it will love it. I don't know how everybody else says. I love the unexpected, and that book, to me, had a very unexpected ending that, like I said, is super obvious when you're through with it. So I recommend everybody to get it, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Randy. That means a lot.
It does.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the CKP Future Books podcast with host Randall Willis. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving it a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you subscribe. Show likes and channel subscriptions are also much appreciated on the CKP YouTube channel. Finally, if you'd like to know more about this author or others on the CKP roster, visit chriskennedypublishing.com. Thanks for listening to the CKP Future Books podcast. We'll see you next time.